Okay, I'm starting. Hello everyone. Welcome to Software Testing Expert Talk series. Today we have a guest who has 20 plus years of experience in software development and testing in IT industry so far. Plus, he is a Selenium core committer and the co-maintainer, co-creator of Docker, Selenium, and Selenium. He also runs the continuous testing meetup Berlin, a group that provides an environment for local testers to share knowledge and participate in the community. I will not take any more time in introducing our guest for today's STET session. Our guest is none other than Diego Molina. Welcome to our show, Diego.
Hi, Eddie. Thank you for having me here. Very happy to offer the things I have to share with you today, with you and your community. And yeah, thank you for having me here.
Guys, today Diego will talk about what new things are coming in Selenium 4. Let's hear from him directly. Over to you, Diego.
Cool, thank you. So give me a moment. I want to arrange my setup here so you're able to see. I have a few slides to share.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just give me a moment.
Okay.
And then you will be able to see the slides. Okay, there we are, and I am gonna share this content with you. There you go. It's somehow taking a while. Great. So I see that you can see my screen right now, and then let me give you a small presentation, some comments I have about Selenium, what is happening in Selenium, and let's get started. I will omit this part because basically you just said everything that is in this slide. So let's jump into details. I have a few things that I want to share today with you and your community. And one is basically how Selenium got started and how it came to be what it is. And it has been almost 2 years since the last stable release. So what has been happening during this time, right? We want to know that. And we're going to wrap up things. Maybe we'll exchange some questions. And what is happening with Selenium in the future? What is Selenium 4 bringing to all of us? So let me share how we got here. To refresh our minds, our memory, Selenium 1 made by Jason Huggins, 2004, which was an open source project that worked in a very similar way as Cypress works nowadays, with this remote execution, injecting JavaScript in a browser. Then 2006, the first version of the Selenium IDE came out. And then there was an architectural decision of having a browser driver. So something between your code and the browser, something in the middle that could drive commands. Then Simon came up with WebDriver in 2007. 2008 was the first version of Selenium Grid. A folk named Philippe, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, he's French. Then in 2011, it was the first time that Chrome driver showed up. And this is super important for the history of the Selenium project because it was the first time that a big company like Google said, this is an interesting project, I want to help, let's build up this together. Mozilla followed up, Microsoft with Microsoft Edge driver followed up, and then the same thing was done by Apple with the Safari driver. Selenium 3 was released in 2016, right? And the main important objective of Selenium 3 was to take us to the point where we could talk about a standard, W3C standard called WebDriver that helps us to drive commands in a browser. We can dip into that topic a bit later. And then some folks at DevTools helped us to redo from scratch the Selenium IDE. So this is what we have today. And if things keep going the same way they're going, we're going to have in 2021 the stable version of Selenium 4. So yeah, it's 16 years old, almost 17, the project. And some people say this is an old project, but if you check other ones, yeah, like there are way older projects. So I like to see that Selenium is a mature project, a stable project, rather than an old project, which sometimes people like to say. There has been, from the beginning, a lot of activity in the project. So for example, people who got started with Selenium, for example, Adam was sharing a weekly blog post with 𝐒𝐴𝐸𝒂 saying, this is all what is happening in Selenium during this week. And then we had a modern in that time, a website with documentation, and we were also doing Hangouts. So 2014, back then when pandemic was not around, we were already doing this type of interactions with the community. And then there were many things driven by the community. For example, conferences. There are over 300 groups around the world doing meetups for Selenium. And there is a lot of community created content. For example, if you Google Selenium tutorial, you will get thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of tutorials related to Selenium. So the community is pushing a lot the growth of the project.
Okay.
But one important thing that many people don't see is the balance between community and project. So you can think that Selenium has millions of users, but if you check the core team, it's not bigger than 10 people. So, you know, we have to be very consistent and very stable in the way the team behaves and in the team, and we're finding ways to grow the team. And the normal thing is that when people start with a project, like something that is interesting for you today, right? Maybe it's not interesting in 2 years, it's not interesting anymore.
Right.
But so it happens that people evolve and then people move on. But what happens when people move on is that they take some knowledge with them, and therefore there is like missing knowledge in the project, and we have to rebuild those things from scratch. So this has led us to be in a state where it has been 2 years without a release. So how is this possible? I mean, Selenium project hasn't released something stable in 2 years, but you have browser versions, a new one every 6 weeks. You have things that still work, right? And what is the main reason for this? Because we have W3C WebDriver. So this is the importance of having a standard that even if there are no versions adding new features, the core functionality of how you can drive and automate a browser is still working. So that is the importance of betting on standards when you want to start getting into serious automation. You know, but there is a lot to improve. For example, until the end of 2019, we were growing the amount of issues in GitHub. And getting a lot of issues in GitHub is not a bad thing always. But what it's bad is that you can also see the amount of pull requests growing and growing. And as I say, this is not a bad thing because it shows that people are interested in your project. People are looking forward to contribute to your project. But the really bad thing is that when someone submits an issue and you take about 34 days to reply to them and 100 days in average to close that issue, this is not a good sign, right? Like it's not taking care of the community and the users.
Right.
Same story for the pull requests. Maybe you wake up someday and you say, hey, I want to contribute to Selenium. Here is my pull request. The first feedback you get is it was around, in average, 43 days. And to get your pull request merged or close it, we were needing around 126 days. So this is not encouraging at all. People will feel like, why should I contribute? Why should I pay attention to Selenium? The project is not being active into answering to me. So the first thing we started doing around 2 years ago was to start cleaning and organizing things. The first thing was that we started to filter the issues and give feedback quickly to users. We created good GitHub templates so you could report a bug properly or propose a feature properly. And then the thing is that when this little bot detects that there is an issue with just a few lines that, it's just a question. And the thing is that we don't have the bandwidth to answer questions in GitHub. That's why we have our chat, or that's why we have our mailing list. So the point is that when someone creates an issue like that with just little information, what do you do? It's super ambiguous. So we decided that we're going to close those issues and we're going to give information to the person saying, this is a question, looks like a question. Please go to our Slack channel and we can reply to you right away. So this helped a lot to, clear out the amount of issues. It helps us to, when you want to see the forest, but you cannot see the forest because there are too many trees in front of you. Right. That's the same thing. Like when you have so many things to do and you don't know where to start. So you start like filtering, organizing, and now you can see the forest and now you can see what you want to achieve. So we also started to bring good habits. We started to do blogs. We have a new website. And we started to do public meetings. So every Thursday, for example, 1 week ago was the public meeting, and we write down all the meeting minutes, so everything is recorded. Anyone who's interested to know what is going on with Selenium, when is Selenium 4 shipping, you can go there and you can join and you can be part of it. Okay. So we're getting better because when we started to do this job in 2020, at the beginning, you could see that the amount of issues went down. Also, the number of PRs went down. But now we have a much better time to the first attention. We say that after 7 days, we reply to you. And after 14 days, we solve your issue. Same thing for pull requests. But as you can see, these numbers are not ideal, but it's much better than before. That's true. And we're working on attracting more contributors. For example, before I formally joined the Selenium project, we had an issue where if you, Ajay, you say, okay, I want to contribute to Selenium, how can I become part of the team? There was no one actually answering you this in a detailed way, step by step, what to do. So it's very common in open source that projects have a structure and a governance. Governance means that a basic set of rules of how the project is run. Then it declares, if you want to become part of the team, what do you need to do? You need to send 10 pull requests with changes, contributing to the code. And after that, when you fulfill these metrics, you can ask, hey, I have done this and that. I'm fulfilling what the governance says. Can I join? And that's basically what you need. So it's a clear metric for everyone. So if you want to start contributing to documentation, simply fulfill the requirements, and then you will be part of the team. This is open for everyone, and actually we have gotten a few people joining the team after this type of declared and a specific way to join. Okay. And so we specify roles, responsibilities, and it's more transparent because everyone who wants to work in Selenium and contribute is able to do that now. Okay. But yeah, so far I gave you and your community a general overview of what has been happening in the Selenium project. And I think it's important because Selenium 4 is a technical release. It has a lot of features, but a project without organization and structure won't be a long-living project. So that's why I was sharing that with you. But I wonder if, like before jumping into the future part and the Selenium 4 part, if you have any questions.
Yeah, Diego, as you have told, like this project is now more than 16 years old. But despite of that, we have a lot of automation tools in the market. but why Selenium is still in the #1 position?
I think it's a fair question because there are many new tools offering really good features, but still Selenium has the biggest, yeah, let's call it market share, and it's basically because it's very stable in the sense that, as I was saying a moment ago, even if we haven't done a formal release in 2 years, it still works because we're based on a standard that is like, it has the blessing of the W3C. So every browser that should be called a browser should support this standard, and it's backed by the big 4 companies: Apple, Microsoft, Mozilla, and Google. I forgot that one. And then it's a project that its main focus, its main way of working, of how comments are sent and back and forth, it's a standard way, and it's reliable. So you could leave your tests untouched for a while, and they will still work because the comments are the same ones. So that's the main goal. Like, that's the main reason why the tool works. But I think it's unfair to say that it's only Selenium what is on the #1 position. There are tons of projects built on top of Selenium that give all these features and the richness for users to enjoy. So, for example, if you check Java frameworks like Selenite or Fluent Learning, they are excellent frameworks that help you to get started way faster than if you use pure Selenium. So I think it's the group of projects built on top of Selenium that is helping the community to get this tool on the #1 position.
Okay, got it. Fair enough. Next question is, so where Selenium is heading now, and what we can see as a roadmap of its future developments?
We are heading to a concept where Selenium should be extremely easy to set up and extremely easy to use. It's not unknown that if you want to get started with Selenium, there is a steep learning curve that you need to have some proper setup in your machine, in your laptop, in your desktop. So if you want to get started and just try one script with Selenium, you need to have a browser installed, like, I don't know, Firefox. You need to have 𝐒𝐞𝐥𝐿 installed, and this has to be in the correct path. And if something is wrong, things explode. So it's not, so we're becoming more and more conscious in the project that setting up your environment to get started with Selenium, it's not the most straightforward thing all the time. So the main idea here is that Selenium will be a tool that it's what we like to call with batteries included. This means you download it, you run your test. Maybe the first time will be something a bit slower because on the background, we're going to configure the browser driver for you. We're going to download the browser if you don't have it for you. So you have to just download the tool and use it for the first time. So that's one of them. The first goal is to make Selenium easy to set up and easy to use. And what we're looking forward, what I'm talking about is after Selenium 4 is released. That's what we will focus on. And the next thing we want to work on intensively is to improve more the Selenium IDE. Selenium IDE is a browser extension, and it's very helpful. And it has thousands, hundreds of thousands of users every month. But we're working slowly to evolve it to make it an Electron app. So this is something that the Amplitude folks started, and then we want to pick that up, and then we want to make it the central point of your Selenium development. So you can start tests from there, do recording, all these things you can do with them. So in short, we want to make the Selenium ID your tool for debugging, for running tests, for doing everything related to Selenium, and make things as easy as possible through this Electron app. Yeah.
Okay. Coming to next question, Diego, is anything going to get changed in terms of headless browser execution in Selenium 4?
Not at all. I think the concept of headless browsers was something that the browser vendors came up. So Google, Mozilla, and that's it. Well, Microsoft now that uses Edge based on Chromium. But Selenium just enables that. It's not really making any difference. Perhaps there is a new command in Selenium 4 that you can minimize a browser. Like you can maximize it. Now there is one that you can minimize it in case people want to run tests without having the browser window popping up on their head. But in terms of headless browsers, there is no real change. It's mostly related to the browser vendor.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I think you can progress with your presentation. Moving ahead.
Cool. Then let's cover another interesting topic, which is W3C. So there has been a lot of comments about W3C. What is W3C? Why are we doing W3C WebDriver? What does that mean? And maybe I can answer that with a question. Maybe in the past, when some years ago, if you were trying to write a test and you wanted to run it in Chrome and Firefox at the same time, maybe Firefox was passing, Chrome was failing, and you wonder why, because it's the same test. And the thing is that before WebDriver was a W3C standard, each browser vendor was implementing the commands as they thought it should be implemented. So whenever they say, click here, if the Google team understood click was procedure ABC, and the Mozilla team understood click was procedure 1, 2, 3, so completely different procedures, they wrote it as that. And then this could end up to lead into different behaviors between browsers when you're executing the same command. So the idea is that each vendor, so there is a group led by David Burns, which is the browser and automation tools, part of the W3C. And there is a group of very smart people, very nice people from all the different vendors, like there is Salesforce, there is Apple, Mozilla, Microsoft, everyone is there. And then they sat down to understand, okay, when we do a click, what should actually happen? Like, so there is a website, w3c.github.org.io. I think, I don't remember exactly the link. I can share it with you later so you can forward it to your community. But then if you go and read it, it's not super entertaining, but then you will see that every single command is describing how things should work. So W3C basically gives you the guarantee that things are going to be stable moving forward, and making WebDriver, so WebDriver based tools like Selenium, a very safe bet for automation.
Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is to give users a stable facing API. So when they say click, whatever has to happen in the backend happens. And what does that mean for you, right? Like, okay, in theory, this doesn't mean anything. You don't need to do anything. You just need to have the most recent versions of components, and then you're safe. Sometimes if you are using something like, I work at Sauce Lab, so if you're using a browser vendor, a cloud vendor, you were using things like, for example, browser or platform or version, things like that. And maybe you were using things like additional capabilities. Nowadays, you need to have these capabilities prefixed. So For example, you see that there is a new object here called source caps, and all these capabilities that are not standard, they are part of this object, and then they're added here as source colon options. So everything that is not standard is prefixed. So, and then there is a change in the name of things, like you have browser version instead of browser, you have platform name instead of platform. So these type of things are basically small changes, and some commands are improved. But if you have been using recent versions of Selenium, you should be safe.
Okay, understood. Okay,
cool. So maybe we can jump into one of the first features that Selenium 4 has, which is relative locators. So relative locators came from the idea of locating elements in a visual way. So all these locators, like by ID, by name, by CSS, all these things are based on how an element can be found in the DOM. But there is a tool called 𝐒𝐞𝐥𝐞𝐧𝐢, I think it is the name, that they had this concept a while ago, and now we want to use it in Selenium. And the idea is that you could say, I find an element, and then you want to say, I want the one that is on the right of it, I want the one that is below it, and so on. So let me give you a small demo. We're gonna use a website that let me look for it. Here it is. So I have this website. It's based on a website that Angie Jones has for demos. So I took it and I just changed some images and remove a few things because I just wanted to have a grid of images. So for example, the concept is that you could say, okay, I know how to find the Warsaw bot. I want to find London, and visually you could say London is the one that is below Warsaw. Right. So let's see how that looks in code. I'm gonna switch to my IDE. Here it is. Let me open the correct file because I was obviously testing this before we started this conversation. And let me increase the size of the font so people can see that.
Right. Now it's fairly visible.
Great. So let me describe briefly what we're gonna do here. So I'm gonna start Safari browser. And I'm going to use the JavaScript executor to blur, to highlight what element I'm finding. So this is more visible. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to maximize the browser. I'm going to go to the page I was showing you a moment ago. We're going to sleep for demo purposes. And then this is where the relative locators demo starts. So what we're going to do is that you can start finding, you're going to say, please find me all the elements on that page which their tag has the list item, right? And then when you find them, give me the ones from all of those, give me the ones that are on the left of Boston, and the one that is below Warsaw. So let's go back to the website for a moment to see what that is. So if I inspect things here, if I inspect this, well, everything is a list. So you will see the item is a list here, and it has an ID and so on. So if I want to see I want to find that, I'm gonna go back to the code for a moment, and I'm gonna say what is on the left of Warsaw. I'm sorry, what is on the left of Boston and what is below Warsaw. So if I go back for a moment, this is Boston, and everything that is on the left of Boston are all these three elements.
Right.
And when I say what is on the left of Boston and below Warsaw, then we have London, right? So this is what we expect to see blurred and shown. So let's move again. And let's do this quick demo. Let's see how fast it is, since we are recording and I'm also running Docker and Zoom at the same time. Sometimes this is not as fast as it is.
Yeah.
But this is already running. So we're gonna see the browser popping up, and then we're gonna see how the London bot gets blurred.
Okay.
So yeah, and the main idea for about this feature is perhaps to help testers talk more like how the humans talk about, like to the left, to the right, below, or and this and that. Right. So we're sleeping for 5 seconds here, and then we blur the London.
Yeah,
bot.
I can see that London is blurred.
So that is the main idea of relative locators. You could like obviously change things and say to the left of, I don't know, like Berlin, and then below that, and then you can play on that. So this is kind of like working well, but maybe a message for your followers and for your community. We haven't got much feedback about it. So from the tests we do, it all looks that it works well. But it seems that people are not really picking this up. So it's nice that you are like sharing, like giving us the opportunity to share more about this tool, this feature.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's. So that was relative locators. So let's check something else. I guess one of the most interesting features of Selenium 4 is the integration with Chrome DevTools, right? So being able to intercept network calls, being able to mock the, like the network, being able to change images on the run, all these things. But what I would like to talk about is not really about the technical part at the beginning. I want to give, why are we doing this, right? It's not because we're catching up a trend. And we clearly see that today, people who are doing testing, they need more information from the web application they're testing. Also, they need more tools that help them to manipulate the testing environment to test what they need. So sometimes you need to mock an API, sometimes you need to block. I don't know, if you're testing a website and there is a lot of like advertisements loading or Google Analytics loading in the background. If you want to block those things, then this is how you can do it. But what is happening under the hood? So normally, traditional WebDriver commands work in this way. So you have the HTTP layer, and you have on one side the test you wrote, and on the other side you have the browser. Normally, they work like that. You send a request, and there is a response. Traditional HTTP conversation. So request response, one-to-one. But what happens when you want to do more things while, or let's say, what happens when you want to do things at the same time? So we are moving to an event-based type of testing that is happily combined with the traditional one, HTTP-based. And the idea is that you have your test, and you have the browser, but then you have a WebSocket request. So normally this type of event-based interaction are using WebSockets, but then it could work like this. You could say, your test could say, I want to start a WebSocket communication, and then the other side says, yeah, let's talk via WebSockets. And what happens there? Maybe you want to say, maybe you're waiting for an element, right? Maybe you say, right now, what you do when you wait for an element, you say, is this element there? No, it's not there. So you wait half a second and you ask again until it's there. Maybe you wait 5 or 10 seconds. The idea behind this concept is that you could potentially say, please tell me when the element is there. And then you will get a message back saying it's there, it's not there. And for example, in the case of saying, I want to block this type of requests, then you send a message saying, these are the type of requests I want to block. And you can get messages back saying, this was blocked, to confirm that things are being done and happening. So that's why we're having right now Chrome DevTools Protocol integrated into Selenium 4, because this is just a preamble of what is happening in the future, and it's called BiDi, the Bidirectional WebDriver Protocol. It's also working, it's on its way to become a standard. Standards take a while, maybe it will be ready in 1 or 2 years, but the benefit is that the things that you're doing with DevTools Protocol, the most important use cases, not all of them, because DevTools on its roots, it's a debugging protocol. I mean, it's to debug, not to test. So that has like so many features, functionalities. So we're not gonna work on having them all in the bidirectional WebDriver protocol. We're gonna have only things that are useful for testing, like blocking networks, mocking APIs, things like that. And the plus of that is that when it's a standard, it will work in Safari, Chrome, Firefox, all the browsers. And that's the huge benefit on betting in a standards. If you work with a standard, big companies get around, they make them work. It takes a while, but then it's stable. It's not like the Chrome DevTools protocol that on every Chrome version, something changes and it might break your tests. So I could here do a small demo about Chrome DevTools as well.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So let me jump to my IDE again. And we're going to close this class for a moment. And we're going to jump to the CDP one. There are several use cases here. I'm not going to go through all of them because I'm going to switch back to the browser again for a moment. You can all go to this public repository that I have, and it's the Selenium 4 demo. So all the code I'm showing here, it's here, and you can go through it. You can try it locally, and you can play and get more into it. So let me go back to the IDE. So we're going to go through just a couple of use cases, and the first one is we're going to try to block URLs. Before describing what this script is going to do, I'm going to say that, you know, this works, the Chrome DevTools or the CDP integration works only with Chrome-based browsers, such as Chrome, the new Edge, and it also works with Firefox, because Firefox did an implementation of this. So if you want to use DevTools, what you have to do is first to create an instance of Chrome driver, because you want to use Chrome, right? Then when you are already there, you can do Chrome driver.get DevTools. So this is going to give you an object that will allow you to start a session through the DevTools. And then when you have that, you are ready to start working on a test. Right now, the code is normally quite verbose because you need to declare all the interactions that should happen. Our expectation is that frameworks built on top of Selenium will simplify this for you. So for example, this command, what we'll do, will say to the browser through Chrome driver, it will say something like, enable the network. I will work with the network. I will do things. So enable this for me. And then the next one will do something like, I want to block URLs. And you could say something as simple as URLs that are loading a resource, like a style resource like CSS, or loading an image like a PNG image. You have to block those resources from me.
Okay.
So up to this point, things will work. And you can add listeners. So this is the part I was mentioning about getting messages back without you asking for things. So here you could say, please listen to the network when something fails to load. And if something fails to load, assert that what is failing to load is a style sheet or an image.
Okay.
And then you can actually assert that what is being blocked is what you wanted to block. But absolutely, you could remove this code and the test will work as well. This is just to show that you're able to listen to events, even if they're happening asynchronously. Then the next step is that you load the website that we have been working on. We're gonna sleep for a moment to show the demo. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna disable the network, like all the things we did above, sorry. We're gonna throw that away. And then, we're gonna load the website again. And what you will see is that obviously the website will load again, but in this case, with the images loaded.
Okay. Let's see that.
So let's have a look. And now, Chrome is starting, and we should see the browser popping up in a minute. I'm just waiting. Oh, it popped somewhere, but so I have two screens, right? So I don't know in which screen it popped up.
Okay.
I'm just gonna, there it is. Okay, all good. It's just too many things running at the same time.
Understood.
So there you go. That's the website. It has no styles, no images.
Right.
Then we wait a bit. We reload it.
Right.
With the network configuration that we did through, and then it's there. So what you can think about is that you have the potential to manipulate the network if you want to mock an API, if you want to block calls to, if you want to test how reliable your website is, like how stable your web app is. You could say, I will, for example, I will block the API, the backend API, and the front end has to still look nice, something like that. I don't know.
Right.
You can have all these use. So we're giving you the possibilities to imagine a bunch of tests that you can do now without the need of extra tools. Let me look for another one. This is a case where you can add headers to requests, and this is very helpful in case you're trying to test, for example, blue and green deployments. If you want to run a test only on a deployment, and then maybe the traffic is being distributed based on headers, this is also an option. Let me see which one. Okay, so there is now the option of doing, you can do a full page screenshot if you want to with Chrome DevTools. This is something that some people find very useful for visual testing. So I think I had it here. So we can run this one, and then we can run another one, and then we can continue.
Okay.
So what is happening here is that I will go to the website of my team at SOS in the open source team. And then we're gonna do some scripts saying, I want to know how with like the sizes of the site, like how high it is, how the width of it, And then I just manipulate the command. All this is basically reflecting the comments, the documentation that you can see for the Chrome DevTools. So in this case, it will just map things from there, but then it will send the command, and then the screenshot will be taken, and we're gonna see how that screenshot looks like, even though what you load on the viewport, well, it's not the complete page, so it's taking a while to load. So there it is, the website. It takes a moment until it does a calculation, but then it's done. So if I go here to the files of the project, then there is a file called full page screenshot file name.
Right.
I think I can open it here. So I guess you can, I could, but you see the full.
It's from top to bottom. Everything has been captured.
It's a full page screenshot, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do that, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite nice. And maybe to finish, we can do one that is called replace content. And the idea of it is that, for example, you have this website that I have been showing you with all the bots of Sauce Labs. But let's say that we are on, like, it's Christmas right now, for example, and I want to replace all the bots with this one, let's say.
Okay, I was also thinking Christmas bots.
Good. Then the procedure is very similar. I just load the image, and then here it says when I match something that is like an image PNG, replace it with the one I have. And then I load the website. And right after that, I will load the website again with the network deactivated. It's taking a moment, and then I think Chrome will pop up there. So yeah, then this is the normal website, right? But then we're gonna wait a few seconds. We load it again, and it's full of the content we're replacing. So again, the possibilities are endless. For example, if you need to test some specific content for your test, you can replace whatever is on the website. You can block. This is how you could mock an API, for example. You can block the request. You can, again, endless possibilities. Great. So that's about it about the CDP integration. So I'm gonna go back to the slides, and remember that all the code is here. So let's start getting into the final part of the slides. I think another big feature, big change from about the Selenium 4 release is the new Selenium Grid, right? This is an extremely complicated image I'm sharing to you, but this is just to show that if you want to scale the image, the Selenium Grid, you can break it into pieces right now. Before it was just a hub and many nodes. Now you can break it into different parts to scale it up in your infrastructure. For example, you have the router, which is the facing, external facing component. This is where your test will be routed. And then you have a queue that will like accommodate the sessions that are coming into the grid. The distributor takes the role of saying, you want to run a test in Safari. Let me find a node for you that is having Safari. So the distributor is having that logic. And then when a session is created, then the session map says, this is a session that is running with Safari, and the node that is running Safari is node 123. So the next time a command comes for that session, the router will say, session map, tell me which node is the one I need to send this request. So then the router is sending the request to the node directly, and this means that there is less traffic going inside the grid, and this will improve performance for big deployments. One interesting thing is that, for example, the session map is storing information, and the distributor as well. So they're storing a state, and one of the major let's call it rules in microservices is that your components, your services should be stateless. And that's why you can have the session map and the distributor backed by a database. You can have Redis or a key value storage like Redis, or you can have a MySQL database behind it. And what will happen is that you could have two distributors running at the same time. You could have two session maps running at the same time. And then imagine how you can scale that. So it's it's very extensible. So I also have a quick demo about it, but I'm not gonna, open a terminal. I'm doing Java -jar and so on. I want to share what we have been doing in the Docker Selenium project. So here is the link in case someone is interested. I just want to scroll briefly and say that we have images for Selenium 4 beta 4 ready, and you can try them quickly. And one of the nicest things that this new version of Grid in Docker is bringing is that, let me scroll a bit more, is that you have video recording included.
Wow.
And if you want, you can have something like dynamic grid. So this is what creates containers in the background, records the video, and you have the files locally to manipulate them as you want. I'm gonna do a quick demo for this.
Okay.
I'm gonna switch back to the IDE. And then I'm gonna share first the configuration file. The configuration file is normally called config.toml. And let me describe you easily. So we have images, Docker images for this. And in this case, we have one for Firefox, one for Chrome, and one for Microsoft Edge, the new one. And you can configure this in this way. You could say this image is gonna run Firefox. So you will configure here the capabilities, so or what we call now the stereotype. Then I will just a moment, I will silence again things. All right. So, and then you could say this image called Chrome beta, whatever. You have to say, okay, this will have Chrome, and you can also add things here like which browser version, which platform, and so on. But we're going to keep it simple for now. Since this thing is actually starting Docker containers in the background, you need to say, where is the Docker daemon listening to me? Like, which URL can I use to reach the Docker daemon? And then you can also specify, we have a video image for you, so you can record the tests. It's not part of this big image, but it's also recorded. So let me start it locally. I forgot I had it running. Maybe that's why the laptop was so slow. There were Docker things running. It's shutting down. There it is. So so the command is quite simple. I mean, you will see in the docs of the repositories, but you start an image that you configure. Actually, you can see the command a bit bigger here. And you share your configuration file, and you share a directory where the assets will be stored. What is an asset? It's a file that will have the capabilities you use it, and is a file that will be the video. So the video and the capabilities you use it. Port for 444, and then you're gonna use something that we call the Docker image. So we start this, and it will slowly, very slowly. My laptop is really slow, so it bootstraps a grid, a standalone grid, but you could have this schema obviously distributed in many machines. So it's starting, and then it's checking that the Docker images are present, and it's double checking, okay, everything is present, we can start. This is where you can reach the grid. And if I switch back to the browser, I can go, for example, localhost 444, and this is the new UI of the Selenium Grid. It's a complete refresh. It looks, I mean, it's brand new. So it should give you more data to understand what is happening in the grid. So there is a tab for the nodes, and there is a tab for sessions, but right now there is nothing running. So we can check it a bit when things are running. So let's go back to the IDE. Hopefully things don't go that slow. Important things to take into account. This is documented, but I will also highlight it here. So we're going to run a test with Chrome. And this is where the grid is in my localhost port 4444. Right. But then here, we're going to do something with Chrome. And it's very important to pass these capabilities. So the Docker container knows that it has to record a video, and it has to set something to a given time zone or a screen resolution. Therefore, and then we maximize the browser, and we go something that navigate, but this is basically, this is basically going through different websites and sleeping for a bit so you can see something in the video. This is not really a test. This is just navigating with the browser.
Right.
So let's, actually this is not needed. Just want to check something. Okay, so let's run this one with Chrome, and let's see what happens. So we're going to see in the logs that obviously something comes, but first we're going to see the IntelliJ idea, like showing how the test starts. But just to give you you and your community an idea what is happening is like the request is being sent, and in the background there is a container being created to run this session. So the container is created and video is being recorded. So there is a moment while we check the container is up and running, that the video is already started. So if I switch back here to the ID, to the grid, yeah, let's, I don't know, it was loading, I don't know what happened there. The laptop is extremely slow right now.
Yeah, a lot of things are running, that's why.
Okay, so let's go back here for a moment. So we can see that things are running, and if I go to the terminal, then you see basically things are starting to, okay, so the container was being launched, and it takes a while because first, as we have said like 20 times, the laptop is slow, but also the code makes sure things are running before before everything is actually started. So if you go back here and we load this again, I don't know what is happening there, but it's also like 35 degrees right now here, so the laptop is suffering.
Okay.
But we can see in the logs that the session is running, and things are happening. I just want to try the, okay, the tab was completely frozen.
Okay.
So let's try this one again. yeah, it was completely frozen for some reason. So it was the browser, not the UI. So there you have, like, there is one session running. And yeah, there you go. So there's a session running, and you can click on to see the capabilities, something like that. Something that we're working right now is that you could see the live view if you want. We're adding an icon here with the camera, so you can check that.
Okay.
So yeah, in general, this is the new UI. And then what is happening right now is that the test is running. It takes a while since it's basically loading like 5 websites and sleeping for some moments. But while it runs, obviously I run a test like that before. So so this is the one we're running right now. So this is the assets directory I was mapping. And you could see that there is a video being created. So it takes a moment until it's ready. If we open it right now, it will be corrupt, but let's wait until the test finishes. But while that happens, I can open a video of a test I ran a moment ago. So if I open this file, I mean, even opening files is slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, I see that the test is finishing. So I think the load will go down a bit. I can see the other test finish it properly.
Yeah.
So now one file is opening, and there you go. So this was a test I ran a while ago with, like 1 hour ago with Edge. So this is what is happening. And then I could go quickly here and open the video of the test we executed a moment ago.
Okay.
And yeah, this one is with Chrome. The other one was with Microsoft Edge. But in the end, you have like really good videos for the test you can run locally. And if you actually check the size of those files is quite small, so you can find ways to manipulate them locally. So this is a file of 2.5 megabytes for a test of, like, I don't know, 30 seconds. But yeah, so that's the main idea, that you can have a grid running locally, recording video for you. This is one of the major improvements for Grid, Selenium Grid 4.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was, I think, the last part.
Amazed to see the video size is very small, 2.5 MB. It's just, like very small part.
Yeah, we spent some time refining the recording and the comments, but just to wrap up and give you the time to ask more questions if you have, it's just to invite you and all your followers or your community to join us and help us to make Selenium better. You can jump to that link, selenium.dev/support, and you will find the links on to join our Slack channel, our RSC channel, the mailing list. If you want to ask, go there and find ways to contribute. We're always welcoming people. So yeah, that's the final thing I wanted to comment, and I think that's pretty much it. So
okay. So I have a few questions to ask. I have a few questions to ask. So so any other benefits of replacing JSON wire protocol with W3C protocol, which you have shown us during the slide, apart from the standardization everywhere on every browser?
there are little details, like there are some improvements in actions. So like things like drag and drop, you're able now to describe those actions more in detail. Yeah, things like that. But I think they are details compared to the actual main benefit, which is relying on stable APIs that you can use as an end user, as a user of Selenium WebDriver, and everything that happens in the background is transparent for you, and things work. So I think that's the major thing that can be summarized like that. And yeah, there are some small things, but I don't think they are that relevant or matching the big plus, the big benefit.
Got it. Coming to next question. So as we see, Selenium ID is still part of Selenium, and it will remain in Selenium 4 as well. So what is the user base in the market for Selenium ID at the moment?
Yeah, it's a huge user base. It's incredible because I know that people who know how to automate, they could think, but why would I use Selenium ID, right? Then I was also wondering that, but we did some research and we found out that people who use Selenium ID are not exclusively in the testing industry. So you could have high-skilled developers that they are coding their web application, they are working on it, but since they have a high workload, maybe you have a small startup and you want to test, and a developer doesn't have a lot of time to write tests and a framework, but they take the time to identify the major flows of the application, like which are the things I need to test. So they actually use the Selenium IDE, they record those 5-10 tests, and they play them when they need that. So it's people that they need to test something, but it's not their main responsibility sometimes. You can also have people who work in marketing departments. Marketing departments are sometimes responsible for the corporate website of a big company. And then maybe they use something like WordPress, they use something like Wix, and they need to do deployments. I mean, deployments through these tools, and they want to make sure that things work. So many of them have found, okay, the Selenium IDE, I can record something and play it, and it works. Like it will do the check I have to do with that. But then coming to the final point is that there is still a lot of people who want to get started with testing, but either they're not interested in automation. Automation is nothing important for them, but they still want to find a way to test a web application in a fast way. I know people who are like that. They love being manual testers. I prefer to call them testers who explore a lot. And I know someone I work with, and this person was incredible. Like he was able to find so many bugs by his exploratory efforts, and he was not interested in learning automation, but he was adding maybe more value than all the automators at the same time.
Wow.
In the sense of exploring, because I'm not saying that the automators were not adding value, but like they were adding value, but in the sense that because that's what they want to do, but the other person wanted to focus on discovering new paths, new usages for the app. And yeah, so there's people who are not interested in automation, and there is people who are also learning slowly how to automate. So they record the test, they export it to code, and they start learning from that. So there is a lot of use cases for the Selenium IDE, and it's a tool that has a lot of potential to grow more.
Okay, got it. Coming to next question, Diego. So as per you, what skill should tester have in this market to get a suitable job profile in an IT company these days?
I think the skills you need are more conceptual, like understanding things like what you need to test, being able to rationalize quickly between the do I need to automate this or not, being very good at deciding this could be an automated test or this could be a manual test. So basically understanding what testing is and how you could test in a smart way. So people with the criteria that maybe if you're testing a web application and then all tests are WebDriver tests that you're writing, but you could identify that, oh, this is a React application, and the developer could write integration tests for components, that this would cut my tests to half. It's like that type of person who is able to identify and understand the environment where they're working and make decisions based on criteria about what is better for the complete automation flow. Those are the best skills. Obviously, then you need to find out your toolbox, like what tools are important for you. Obviously, I would say using WebDriver is a safe bet because it's based on a standard. But it's okay if you have the criteria to support your decision, saying I will use Playwright because this is what fits us, or Cypress is a good fit for us because I don't know, I can work side by side with the developers and we don't care about Safari, something like that. But if you have the criteria to make decisions and then you choose the tools, that's the type of mindset that will prevail. People who choose a tool and then find a way to test things, that's something that could work in the short term, but in the long term doesn't work.
Okay, got it. Very deep meaning in small words, definitely. So coming to next question. So what's your words of wisdom for today's tester?
I think the last phrase I said for the previous question, the wisdom is, or what I have learned through these years is that even though there is a lot of marketing from companies and promoting tools that promise you everything, like AI tools that do your job and things like that, don't choose the tool first. Understand what you need to test and find ways to do that testing in a smart way. So, for example, what I was mentioning a moment ago, if you're testing a React application, the React environment has so many tools around it that make testing easy. So you can actually test most of the interactions of the application at the component level. And at the end, you can write a few WebDriver tests to test the whole flow. So being smart enough about identifying what tool you're going to, like what type of application you're going to test and understand what is happening around that application, that will help you to see what tools you need and what strategy you can create to actually use those tools. So first, understand what you have to test, understand the environment of what you need to test, then create a strategy for it, and then choose the tools.
Okay, got it. So Diego, finally, we have reached to closure of this wonderful session and a feature-rich session with a lot of demos presented by you. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up this session?
Probably I want to share that anyone who wants to join the team and help to Selenium, please reach out to us, go to our Slack channel, but also help us to spread the word about Selenium 4, what is coming up. So if you have a Twitter account, if you have LinkedIn, share content, share all these things with all your colleagues, friends, people who are interested in automation, because the last thing I want to say is that Selenium is a project that is non-profit. Like there is no company behind Selenium. So we don't have a marketing team. We don't have anything. We're just a bunch of people working in a collaborative way. Most of us were technical. There is no one who understands how to do like promotion of tools and things like that. So the best person to promote Selenium and make it better is you, like the one who's listening and watching this, because that's our main marketing tool. This might sound strong, but if you look at Cypress, if you look at Playwright, they are tools owned and backed by companies. Playwright is backed by Microsoft. Cypress is a company that actually is doing it for profit. So they have whole teams of marketing promoting the tool. We don't have that. We are just people doing that for open source and for the community. So you are the best person. If you believe in Selenium, if you really believe in Selenium 4, you are the best person to help us spread the word and make Selenium even more popular. Thank you.
Yeah, there is no point of questioning Selenium. We believe it. That's why we are here. So great. Of course, we will be doing that. Okay, Diego. Just before we come to closure, just want to know if anyone wants to reach to you in terms of any complex scenario he would be working on. I'm not asking for easy one because we know that you and a bunch of people are really busy in making Selenium better. So for complex query, how can we reach to you?
Yeah, you can go to our Slack channel in Selenium, and you can ask the question publicly to the Selenium channel, because there is so many. It's not only me. We also have very often Simon Stewart is there, David Burns, Pooja, who works with David, is there. Titus, who works with me at Source Labs, is there. We have 𝐒𝐿𝐴𝐸𝐿𝐴, we have like so many people who are there to answer questions, like Jim Evans. We have I cannot count them. Like we have many people who are contributing to the code, but also people who are just there to answer questions. So if you want to chat with me, that's my that's the way to go for it. But if you want, I don't know, if you want to write me in Twitter, like sometimes people do it and because they forget where the Slack channel is or something. So that's my Twitter account. And you can write me like, hey, I saw this video, but I didn't see where the link for the Slack channel is. Then you can write me there and I will share it with you.
Fine. Awesome. We got all details here. And okay, thanks, Diego, for joining us over STET and sharing your knowledge based on your experiences in your tenure in IT industry so far, and hope our audience have learned a lot of things from your session. And we would be expecting more such deep dive sessions from you in upcoming days as well. We wish you all the best for upcoming projects on which you're working on, and thanks for being part of our STET journey.
And thank you for having me here and for giving me and the Selenium project the time to share what is happening in it. Thank you.
Thank you.